Tre'Davious White is back with the Buffalo Bills. Is he the answer at CB2? Plus, two players were released, and I have some exciting news to share about additional content coming to the show today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, folks, welcome in. We've got a lot to cover today. Tre White is back with the Buffalo Bills. Got to share all my thoughts on that with you. Plus, the Bills did release two players. I think there's some interesting conversations to be had about that. Plus, I have some details to share with you today about additional content coming on a weekly basis to Locked On Bills. So a lot to cover here today. Let's start with the big news, which is Tre'Davious White returning to the Buffalo Bills, agreeing to a one-year deal worth up to $6.8 million. Up to is a very important part of this reporting. I am guessing this deal is loaded with incentives, and I'm guessing this deal has very little guaranteed money. And so we'll see what the real numbers are. I don't think that he signed a one-year, $6.8 million deal. So let's wait until we get the details before we really react to the financial side of this. But obviously, Tre'Davious White, a familiar name, first-round pick of the Buffalo Bills back in 2017, had an incredible start to his career, one of the premier cornerbacks in all of football. And then, as you know, injuries. 2021 ACL tear, 2023 ruptured his Achilles tendon. And it's just a very unfortunate series of events that took away from what was shaping up to be an outstanding career for Tre'Davious White. And so the Bills released him last offseason with a post-June 1st designation. He winds up signing with the Rams, and he started the first 4 games of 2024 for the Los Angeles Rams, and he struggled. He gave up 4 touchdowns in 4 games. They asked him to play some man coverage and carry some routes vertically down the field. That didn't go well for him. They released him after he started the first 4 games of the season and really played just about every snap. Then he winds up finishing the year with the Baltimore Ravens and actually played a decent amount for that team. He was part of their dime package, which winds up being 30 to 40% of snaps. He had some good moments, including some very impressive coverage reps against George Pickens. So it's nice to see that he not only finished and had a healthy season last year, but there was growth throughout the year and started to look a lot better once he latched on with the Baltimore Ravens. So what do I think about this? Well, I certainly hope this works out. You know, Tre White is such a fun player to root for, outstanding dude, high-level player prior to the injuries. And it is good that he was completely healthy last year. Again, another year removed from the injuries. So you're certainly hoping that not only is everything strong and good to go with his legs, but that he's got a lot of confidence in the athleticism and ability to plant and drive. He's 30 years old now. He turned 30 back in January, so this will be his age 30 season coming up. You're obviously worried a little bit about athletic decline. Surely that's the case. I mean, he's 30 and has had 2 major injuries since 2021, but I would say that he probably, despite that, has more athleticism than what Rasul Douglas offered last season for the Bills. And so, you know, maybe you did get a little bit more athletic opposite of Christian Benford. Now, one thing that's heavy on my mind right now is is Tre White a starter or bust? Now, he's got a higher ceiling than Dane Jackson, who is the guy I currently penciled in or previously penciled in as the guy opposite of Christian Benford. He's got a higher ceiling than Dane Jackson. So we talked about how Dane Jackson comes in and helps set the floor opposite of Christian Benford. And I think the floor's been elevated a little bit more with the arrival of Tre White. But here's the deal with Tre White is he doesn't offer a lick of special teams value. And so is he either a starter or bust? Can Tre White not be a starter? Does he help you enough in a reserve role given there's no real special teams upside here? Is this a Kyer Elam situation where he's either a starter or an inactive player? It's tough to be a depth corner and not play special teams. It's kind of a required part of the job. And so that's definitely something that's on my mind. And of course, he'll have to prove that he can be the best option the Bills have across from Christian Benford. And we'll see how that all shakes out. Obviously, there's a lot of time for this to play out between OTAs and camp and preseason. We'll get a feel for where he's at. And if he's the best option, he's the best option, but we'll find out. As far as draft implications go, we certainly talked a ton about the need at corner and drafting a corner early in the draft. I don't really think this changes any of that. You still need a long-term solution across from Christian Benford. And if anything, I think Tre White's arrival puts the Bills in a position to have an increased appetite to maybe take a swing on upside. And there's several players that the Bills could consider at corner, whether it's pick 30, a trade back out of the first round, maybe pick 56, where there's some questions right now, but there's a lot of ceiling. I think about a guy like Savone Revel out of East Carolina coming off of an ACL tear in September. Does this help increase your likelihood of drafting that guy, knowing you want to make sure he's fully healthy? You love the player, you love the ceiling, you love the upside, but you don't want to be in a position where he's got to play right now. Does Tre White's arrival help ease that burden and increase your appetite for Savone Revel? What about a Darian Porter out of Iowa State? All the physical upside you can imagine in a corner in terms of size, athleticism, length, really high-level flashes, just not a lot of experience, right? Only a one-year starter. Do you get more intrigued by the possibility of adding Darian Porter, knowing that you have a Tre White in the building? How about Azareye'h Thomas? Very young player, 20 years old. Flashy. Big-time upside, in my opinion. If you draft him, does this ease the burden for him have to be an early starter? How about Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame? He's got his own injury stuff, 2 hip injuries in the last 4 years, plus a shoulder injury, all 3 required surgery. Does this give you an opportunity to make sure he's healthy and ready to go before having to play? So maybe that's kind of the draft implication. It doesn't take away from the need, but maybe it opens your mind to some different prospects that are a little bit more risky, knowing you have Tre'Davious White in the fray. And obviously, Tre White's going to be a major benefit to whoever the Bills draft. It'll be a benefit to the entire roster, right? A-plus dude. Former team captain. I mean, Christian Benford's obviously the guy at corner, but Tre White will be a benefit to him. But ultimately, I think this takes some pressure off from having to not only draft a rookie, but to start a rookie in that spot. Now, if that rookie's the best option, he's the best option. But that'll play itself out. But I certainly think that helps ease the burden a little bit. Again, not taking away from the need, not taking away from the plan, but changes things just a little bit. I was texting with someone in our Locked On Bills subtext community. After Bills news happens, I send out a text to everyone with my initial thoughts when the news broke yesterday. And the guy that I was texting with said something that I thought really summed things up perfectly. He said, "My expectations are low, but my hope is high." I think it's a very reasonable outlook to have on Tre White's return. My expectations are low, but my hope is high. Very interesting. All right, so that's Tre White back in Buffalo. We'll hear from Brandon Beane next week. He's set to speak to the media on Tuesday, so we'll get some more details on the mindset behind the decision to bring Tre White back. All right, on the other side of it, the Bills released 2 players, and I think it's pretty interesting, some interesting talking points to get into based on those decisions, plus have an announcement to make here on some new weekly content coming to Locked On Bills. So, folks, be sure to stick with me. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. You can find the right talent. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance marketing expert who delivers incredible results. It's fast and easy to hire, too, as well. I mean, posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you'll get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Plus, it's cost-effective. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. So visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? And you can check this out. Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. You can dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite television shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Plus, the entertainment options are endless. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services, such as Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. All right, folks, the Bills released a couple of players. Branson Deae, a defensive tackle, and tight end Armani Rogers was waived due to a non-football injury. And so Branson Deae, a defensive tackle, he's a marginal talent. I don't think he really has an NFL skill set. I don't think the Bills are missing out on anything by moving on from Branson Deae. But what's interesting here is that there's only 5 defensive tackles on the roster right now, a 90-man roster with 5 defensive tackles. Typically, on a 90-man roster, the Bills have at least 8 or 9 defensive tackles. And so I think the storyline here is that the chances of double dipping in the draft at defensive tackle just went up. And I think they should be considering a double dip at defensive tackle. I mean, right now you're looking at a defensive tackle depth chart that includes Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, Larry Ogunjobi, who's suspended for the first 6 games of the season, Dwayne Carter, and Zion Logue. Thin. And not that Branson Deae is an answer. That's not the story here. Branson Deane's never going to help the Bills. But your numbers are very low. And so I'm thinking pretty strongly that a double dip at defensive tackle is going to happen next week. The Bills also released Armani Rogers, a tight end. He ruptured his Achilles tendon while training a few months ago. He also ruptured his Achilles in May of 2023. So obviously this is not a good situation. College quarterback that's trying to transition to tight end in the NFL, has spent time with the Commanders, Eagles, and Falcons prior to coming to Buffalo on a futures deal this offseason. But just like a defensive tackle, the Bills are extremely thin at tight end. And not that Armani Rogers was going to be an answer for the Bills, but the numbers are low. And after Kincaid and Knox, who are your clear number 1, number 2 tight end, you just have Zach Davidson. That's literally it. And Zach Davidson's a fun training camp guy and preseason player, but this dude's entering his 5th NFL season and really hasn't proven anything. So maybe he's got a chance to be the tight end 3, but right now he's uncompeted with as a tight end 3. And so I'm expecting a mid-round draft selection on a tight end that can ideally be that guy that serves as a tight end 3, which is a rostered position and usually a position that gets a jersey on game day because of the special teams element. I mean, Quentin Morris has been doing that for a long time for the Bills. Quentin Morris is a free agent. He's not signed by anybody right now, and I think he could be a fallback option for the Bills. You get through the draft, you don't really come away with a tight end that you like, that you think can be your tight end 3. Maybe you reach out to Quentin Morris and see what happens, and maybe Quentin Morris just generally is waiting for the draft to happen so that he can sign somewhere that he's got a real chance to be rostered. And Quentin Morris has been a 4-phase special teamer for the Bills for a number of years, and so while he doesn't have a huge role on the offense, he'll occasionally make that clutch touchdown catch, right? But what he really brought was depth at tight end plus every phase of special teams. And so the Bills need this player on their roster, and I'm expecting a mid-round pick to be invested on a tight end to have a chance to fill it. And it would be nice to have that tight end 3 on a mid-round rookie contract for the next 4 seasons. And so as part of my subtext conversations yesterday, when I shared this news and shared some thoughts on it, had some people questioning, like, why would the Bills do this right now? Well, I think for a number of reasons. First of all, you do right by the players. You know, the Bills' offseason program begins Monday the 21st. If these guys don't have a chance to make your team, you know, move on. Give them an opportunity to go latch on somewhere that's going to give them a path to potentially be a rostered player. There's no sense in getting this offseason program started next week with guys that don't have a realistic chance of sticking. So I think that's first and foremost, but also this is going to help with undrafted free agency. You know, after the draft is completed and the Bills are making phone calls trying to sign these undrafted free agents, having low numbers at those positions, D tackle and tight end, makes Buffalo a more attractive spot for undrafted free agents at defensive tackle and tight end. And we know Brandon Beane said, you know, it's difficult working the phones with undrafted free agents because the Bills are a pretty good roster, obviously, top tier roster with a lot of depth. And those guys get to pick where they go for the most part. And they want to go to a team that has a path for them to make the roster or at least be in line for a practice squad spot. And so I think this helps the Bills be a more attractive destination for D tackles and tight ends because those numbers are really low. They're really low. And I think the Bills will have the upper hand there in their pursuit of undrafted free agents. All right, folks, I've teased it. Got an announcement to make here. Let's do that right now. I'm excited to share that there is additional programming coming to Locked On Bills. Now, before I tell you what that is, let me make this abundantly clear. Nothing changes with what you normally get from me on this podcast feed. Nothing changes. You're going to get a daily 30-minute podcast on the Buffalo Bills from me all year long. That isn't changing. That's our bread and butter. So let's establish that. I will not be doing anything different. You are getting everything you've always enjoyed from me on this podcast feed, but now you're getting some more. We're adding 2 additional episodes per week. We're calling it Bills Squad. So Locked On Bills Squad. And these are going to be hour-long episodes that are intended to be panel-style, free-flowing conversations. And so I will be joined by at least 2 other people. You're going to get Jeremy White of WGR as the host, myself, and former Bills offensive lineman Jerry Ostrowski. We'll have some guests as well, but you can count on myself, Jerry Ostrowski, and Jeremy White every time on Locked On Bills Squad. The episodes are going to run live on YouTube every Monday and Thursday at noon Eastern time, and then they'll be published in the regular feeds afterwards. So we're gonna do the show live Mondays and Thursdays on YouTube, but then if you're not there live, that's totally fine. I wouldn't expect most people would be there live, but then they will be published like a normal episode of Locked On Bills in both the audio mediums and, of course, on YouTube. Our plan is to start this next week, so buckle up. It's happening. Again, probably next week. Every indication is that we're starting next week, but maybe not. I think it will, though, but it's soon. And I'm excited for this. I mean, we get to add a new format, a new style of discussion to complement what we already have. And let me reiterate, nothing changes. You are still getting the exact same content you've always received from me, a daily 30-minute podcast, but now we're adding this to what we already offer. I'm excited to work with Jeremy and Jerry. I've been doing weekly segments on WGR with Jeremy for a number of years. He's been hosting since 2004, and I love the discussion points that he brings up. He certainly has his finger on the pulse of Bills Mafia. I think he's the perfect choice to be the host. And then Jerry Ostrowski's an awesome dude. I've gotten to know him over the last few years. He loves the Bills, has a ton of knowledge, obviously, as a former player. He's an excellent communicator, and he's got a big-time passion for content creation. And so very excited to have the opportunity to talk ball with him on a weekly basis and learn from Jerry as well. Have some of my favorite football conversations come from chopping it up with Jerry Ostrowski. And now we're going to bring those to you here twice a week on this audio feed. Once again, nothing changes from what you normally have always received from me. This is additional programming that's going to attack stuff in a different style, panel style, free-flowing, hour-long. Buckle up. It is going to be fun. Excited to launch that next week. Speaking of next week, it's draft week. Let me give you an idea as to what the programming is going to look like on Locked On Bills. So on Monday, my plan is to give you my Bills-specific draft board. I do this every year. We've been having all these conversations building the draft board. Well, now it's time to release it. And so obviously I'm going to have a podcast where I talk through it with you, but also you'll be able to have a copy of this. I'll have a link in the show notes. It'll be available to everyone. And so you'll have that next week so you can follow along with the draft. We have some ways that I'm hoping that it can be interactive where we'll see. Well, I want to make sure it can happen, but I think you're going to like a lot of the features that comes with it. So that'll be Monday. Then we're going to have Bill's Squad as well. So that's a pretty big day of content. Then on Tuesday, I have a show planned where I want to plant my flag on some prospects for the Bills, both good and bad, guys that I really think have a chance to be drafted. That'll be a lot of fun. Then on Wednesday, we're going to react to the pre-draft press conference. Brandon Beane's going to speak on Tuesday. We'll break that down on Wednesday. Then it's draft day on Thursday, where I'll give you my real final thoughts on the Bills entering the draft, my final Bills mock draft. We'll also have Bills Squad, right? It's Thursday. And then content all weekend long. Friday, we will react to the first round, day one of the draft. On Saturday, we will react to what happens on Friday, which is day two of the draft. And then Saturday evening, after the draft is over, you're going to get reactions to the day three picks that the Bills make. And, I'll probably have to break those down into a couple of episodes. Right now, the Bills have 7 day three picks. I don't know if they will ultimately finish with 70 day three picks, but they'll have a few. So we'll maybe have a couple episodes breaking down those prospects. So tons of content next week, including through the weekend. So we're out of the normal rhythm, but obviously that's just going to be the way that it's going to be with draft week. And it's not a loss. I mean, it's just more content, which means there's more to talk about, and I love it. So I'm very excited about everything that's coming your way next week. Also, letting you know, in the Substack, the Herd Mentality Substack, where I give additional content, written content, video content. In the Substack, you can, of course, you're going to get another mock draft from me next week, in addition to another article. But for all of the draft picks that the Bills make, you're going to get a film breakdown on every single pick, where I'll do, voiceover analysis breaking down all 22 film. That'll be in the Substack after every selection. It'll, it might take me a week to get them all done, but I'm going to work through those as quickly as I can, so that way you can get some good film analysis on all the players that the Bills draft. And so make sure you check out the Substack. There's a link in today's show notes. And not only will you get that analysis and all the additional content, but you get into our Discord channel. And this is a great week to get into the Discord channel. Got over 1,600 Bills fans in there. And of course, with the draft, you want to be in there chopping it up with all the Bills fans. And it's a lot of fun. We're talking all day in there. We got talking Bills, Sabres, what's going on in baseball and basketball, what we're cooking. There's a movie club. There's a book club. It's a lot of fun. We're actually going to have a mock draft competition for people in Discord. I have a fun format there where it's not just a first round mock, but you're also We'll predict players the Bills will draft, and there's a point system. It's going to be really fun. And every Wednesday night, I do a live hangout. It could be a Q&A. Sometimes we do trivia nights. And also, throughout the summer, I'm planning on doing some football 101 stuff in there where we're going to get, really informative on techniques, style of play, O-line play, coverage shells, pass rush, all kinds of stuff, protection schemes, where if you're, wanting to enhance your knowledge of football, I'm going to do stuff in there several times throughout the summer. We'll have some football 101 stuff as part of our weekly Wednesday night hangouts. So check it out. There's a link in today's show notes to check out the Substack. If you join the Substack, you get into the Discord as one of the incentives. So check it all out. Excited for all that's to come here with draft week. Excited for Locked On Bills squad. Excited to work with Jeremy and Jerry on a weekly basis. And I hope that you're excited for it as well. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here today on the podcast. I'm excited for next week. Oh boy, it's going to be fun. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.